It's a big day for American Bitcoin with the company debuting on the NASDAQ under the ticker ABTC. Now, this comes after the completion of its stock-for-stock merger with Griffin Digital Mining. Now, ever since the launch of American Bitcoin was first announced back in March, you made it clear that becoming a publicly listed company was a big goal. And here we are, less than half a year later, and American Bitcoin started to trade on the NASDAQ. Eric, what does this day signify to you? And why was it such a priority for American Bitcoin to become a publicly listed company?
Well, this is awesome. Ashley's become a great friend of mine. And, you know, when you devote so much time and effort and kind of resources, and I don't think there's any two people who could have brought a company, public quicker than Asher and I did, thinking about getting from, kind of zero to where we are today and watching what the stock is doing right now. It's just, it's beautiful and incredibly rewarding. And we did that in 5 months, right? That's unheard of. And I think probably a lot about who I am and what I do for a living, and probably the genetics that I have. We like to do things quick. We like to win races, and I think we're going to do that. We've got one of the greatest products on earth, and that's Bitcoin. I truly believe in it. I think it's one of the greatest assets out there. I think it's one of the greatest stores of value. I think it's the ultimate hedge against other hard assets like real estate, which is another part of my life. And it's all being done in America, by Americans, and we're having a great time together. So. Today's certainly a celebration for all of us, but the real work just begins.
Now, Asher, you're the CEO of energy infrastructure operator Hut 8. You're also a board member and executive chairman of American Bitcoin, which is a majority-owned subsidiary of Hut 8 focused on Bitcoin mining and strategic Bitcoin reserve development. So now that American Bitcoin is public, what's next for the company, and how do you split your time between Hut 8 and American Bitcoin, which are now both publicly listed companies?
Growth and scale. At American Bitcoin, we're looking to build America's Bitcoin infrastructure backbone, and that's key. And so there's a lot of synergy between the two companies, which make it pretty easy. Hut 8 is building infrastructure, it's building energy infrastructure, digital infrastructure across the United States, and we're scaling and building large-scale campuses. And a consumer of those campuses is American Bitcoin. And so American Bitcoin is able to just focus on buying the chip or buying Bitcoin, not having to build out a multi-hundred person team to be able to manage these facilities, not having to invest in assets that don't drive Bitcoin directly. And so these businesses are really synergistic. At Hut 8, we felt compelled to carve out these assets because we started having two types of shareholders, ones that really wanted to go long energy and others that wanted to go long Bitcoin. And now by having two publicly listed companies, we can have shareholders who want to go long energy, invest and buy into Hut 8, and shareholders that want to go long Bitcoin, invest and buy into American Bitcoin. And I think this morning, we were halted almost 3 or 4 times on trading because of the excitement and the momentum in the performance of the stock this morning. So we're extremely fortunate and grateful. And as Eric mentioned, the work has really just begun.
So what's next for American Bitcoin now that it is, in fact, a publicly traded company?
Well, it's simple. It's a race to accumulate the most Bitcoin, right? We believe in the asset. It's an asset that year over year is appreciating, and we're between kind of 50 and 70% over the last 10-year period of time. It's one of the great stores of value. I'm all over the world. I've got real estate projects all over the world. Everywhere I go, every Fortune 500 company, every sovereign wealth fund, every big family, retail investor company, they want Bitcoin. They want to put it on their treasury. And we're in the infancy of cryptocurrency. I mean, cryptocurrency is growing faster than the internet by a factor of a lot. We're in the middle of a kind of financial revolution around the world where, finance is going to be conducted very differently on many different platforms, and you're going to have new stores of value. And Bitcoin is clearly, unquestionably winning the race, right? It is the digital gold. It's what everybody wants. And we're incredibly excited about it. And so when you can take an asset that's so desired, and is really opening up to the capital markets right now, whether it be through equities, as we're seeing with American Bitcoin, or through the custody of all the largest banks. When you take that force and then you look at what we're doing at American Bitcoin, where you can literally mine Bitcoin at almost 50 cent dollars to current kind of market prices, it's a match made in heaven. But again, on truly an asset that we believe in with every ounce of our heart and soul.
Speaking of first days of public trading, Eric, your family's World Liberty token had a few volatile first few days of trading, but still, your family stands to rake in billions from the token. The Wall Street Journal reported on Monday that your family amassed as much as $5 billion in wealth after the token opened for trading. Can you confirm that number or give more insight there? And Do you plan to use the proceeds from the token launch for other crypto ventures? World Liberty launched the dollar-backed stablecoin USD1 back in March, of course, but are any other new Trump family crypto ventures on the horizon?
So, USD1 is the fastest growing stablecoin in history by far. We started trading at 1 penny, and when we went public the other day, it's roughly trading at 25. So it was almost a 25x in a couple months. So it was an unbelievable success, and I think you guys gave us a lot of credit for it. But listen, this whole voyage started out of just what the banks did to us, traditional financial system did to us. I mean, I was canceled like a dog for running golf courses, for running hotels. I mean, Capital One stripped 300 bank accounts in the middle of the night from me from doing absolutely nothing wrong, only because my family wore a red hat that said "Make America Great Again." I would have never found cryptocurrency had it not been for what the traditional financial institutions did to us. Now they're all coming back, trying to do the exact opposite, trying to get our accounts back and everything else. But it brought me into a world that I believe is so powerful. I mean, why are money transfers sent out 9 to 5 Monday through Friday? Why isn't global finance 24/7? Why is it that you can take a young couple 120 days to get a mortgage, if they can even get a mortgage at all, from a bank that they've done business with for 10 years? And I mean, the traditional banking system has so many fundamental problems, and there isn't a week that goes by where I'm not waiting for a Swift wire transfer to come in or be sent out, where I'm worried that if I miss the 459, the company is not going to receive it until the next, Tuesday. I mean, it's antiquated, it's slow, it's inefficient as hell. And it's not until I started getting canceled and had to come up with an alternative did I figure out, how cryptocurrency just across the spectrum, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be what we're doing with American Bitcoin, whether it be stablecoin as kind of rails for payments, is going to transform really the world, not just America, but the world, and also provide so much economic freedom to so many people in countries that do not have the system that we have here in the United States of America. So crypto, I am in it for the long haul. I hope to become one of the great spokespeople for the industry. I think I've proven that over the last 2 years. And there's nothing I'm more passionate about. And we're doing phenomenal on both fronts. We have the two best projects in all of cryptocurrency. And today's a very special day for American Bitcoin.
Yeah, and look, I can attest to that. Not only is Eric an unbelievable spokesperson for the industry, but he's a true believer. And when we're in these crypto communities and these crowds, I mean, it's very easy to tell if someone sticks out like a sore thumb or if they're actually a part of the community. And Eric's a part of the community. He's not only just an ambassador or a part of these two companies, he's a co-founder, he's a builder, he's a partner. And I think when people ask me all the time, how often do you talk to Eric? I was like, I talk to Eric more than my fiance. Like, we're in this, we're building this. And so it's unbelievable. And look, a part of this is not just the belief in Bitcoin and trying to build global adoption internationally, but also when people globally adopt Bitcoin as the ultimate store of value, making sure a lot of that security and a lot of that infrastructure is built right here in the USA. And so that's an important part of American Bitcoin as well.
And you can certainly tell that you definitely get along very well. Now, Eric, the trading debut of the World Liberty token is casting a spotlight on your family's growing footprint in the crypto space. World Liberty's website notes that President Trump and certain family members own about 38% of the equity interests in World Liberty and receive up to 75% of the token sale proceeds. There has been mounting opposition tied to your father's crypto ventures. In July, during what was dubbed Crypto Week on Capitol Hill, top House Democrats launched what they called Anti-Crypto Corruption Week, accusing Republicans of enabling corruption tied to your father's crypto agenda. Also, Senator Elizabeth Warren and other Democrats sent several letters to government entities voicing concerns tied to your father's crypto dealings. The White House has maintained that there are no conflicts of interest, telling us that President Trump's assets are in a trust managed by his children, including yourself. But Eric, what do you say to this growing opposition from Democrats who think your family's involvement in crypto pose potential conflicts of interest?
Listen, the reality is very simple. My father has nothing to do with the business. I have nothing to do with government. I want nothing to do with government. And, frankly, at this point, he has the biggest job in the world. He wants nothing to do with, the business. There's complete, separation of church and state. As I said before, it's ironic coming from somebody like Elizabeth Warren, who's saying, who's bringing a conflict. I mean, she was the one that got us canceled by every single financial institution. We had nowhere else to go. I mean, I was stranded with one of the greatest companies in the world that has tens of thousands of Americans working for it. being debanked every single day by the largest financial institutions on earth for having done absolutely nothing wrong other than a political affiliation. And then all of a sudden you find an industry, that will accept you. By the way, the very same people who were targeting us were also targeting the crypto community. They were going after them all because you had some people who were really innovative in this country and believed in modern day finance and believed that the banks could be doing things, better, cleaner, safer, cheaper, more transparently. There is no conflict of interest. I'm very proud of this. My father certainly was a co-founder of World Liberty Financial, and that was about 10 months before he decided to, won the election.
And what Eric and his family are doing, it is the epitome of the American dream. As you mentioned, for the former president and their family to get debanked, just like ourselves when we started our company as young entrepreneurs, that's insane. And instead of just responding and reacting to it and just complaining, they went and built companies that went and addressed the problems. And now those companies are some of the most successful companies in the world, and people are complaining about that too. And so I truly believe what they're doing, the amount of commitment they're showing in the ventures that they're building. Look, I'm the first to tell you all, before we started working together, my number one question is, how involved are you truly going to be? And Eric is a partner, a co-founder, a business partner in building this venture. And there's no doubt about that. And anyone who spends time with us sees the passion, sees the hard work, sees the grit. And I give huge kudos to the kids. I tell them all the time, you don't need to work this hard. You don't have to be this humble. They were raised in a great household and they have amazing values. And we couldn't be more proud to be partners with these gentlemen here.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah. I mean that sincerely.
So Asher, Hunt 8 announced last week that it's taking on 4 new projects as part of a U.S. expansion and will add 1.5 gigawatts of capacity. Can you elaborate on these expansion plans and how does American Bitcoin play into that equation, if at all?
So our belief at Hut 8 is that every new technology that has pushed humanity forward has ultimately consumed more power. So how do we harness an electron to power next generation technologies to push humanity forward? That was the blockchain and Bitcoin to create a new store of value and a new financial ecosystem. Today, we're having a lot of demand coming from AI and data centers that run AI compute. And there's advanced manufacturing demand that's starting to percolate as well. And so at Hut 8, we're long energy infrastructure. We own power plants. We own facilities that consume power at large scale across Texas, Louisiana. We have sites in Chicago, upstate New York, across the whole United States. And so we'll continue to be growing the amount of gigawatts that we have under our platform. Today, we're managing about 1 gigawatt with 1.5 that we just announced in addition to that. And you'll see more growth there. And not only the growth of new sites, but commercialization of the sites with some of the best counterparties around the world who are truly innovating for the future of humanity to push things forward and push our technological advancement forward. And American Bitcoin is a customer of that infrastructure. And so Hut 8 can invest in all of the CapEx that has a longer depreciating asset. Real estate is not as of a high return profile business. It's more stable. It's a lower pace of growth. American Bitcoin gets to focus on just investing into the ASIC that generates the Bitcoin yield, just investing into Bitcoin that has been appreciated as one of the highest performing assets over the last decade. And so that's a beauty in these two businesses, and that's a beauty in the strategic alignment and relationship that's really hard to replicate by anybody else.
So you're both joining us from Florida today, but you were just in Jackson Hole for the Wyoming Blockchain Symposium, where we saw Fed officials, lawmakers, and regulators attend. Asher, what was your key takeaway from that event, particularly from the Fed side, where we saw some pro-crypto comments from officials like Chris Waller?
The U.S. is the place to build. It is truly leading in cryptocurrency. So actually, since we were in Wyoming, we've been in Hong Kong and Japan since then as well. So we've been very busy and looking and meeting people interested in this sector around the world. When we're international and people are talking about crypto, they're truly looking at the U.S. as pioneers. Everything from a regulatory perspective to entrepreneurs building some of the biggest companies into the ecosystem. And we were at a dinner and I asked someone, I was like, over the last couple of years, can you tell me 2 years ago how much time you spent in the U.S. and how much time you spent this year? And one of the biggest kind of successful entrepreneurs in the space said, 2 years ago, I spent almost 0 time in the U.S. And this year, I've spent almost 70% of my time here. And so, or 70% of my time there in the U.S. And so the U.S. is not only leading and innovating and creating the regulatory framework to go build great businesses, but it's bringing entrepreneurs back into the US. It's enabling entrepreneurs to build here. And that's really important because crypto will be taking over the financial ecosystem. Bitcoin will be the global store of value. And if the US is not the one leading that front, someone else will. And so we're excited to be a part of that movement.
And Eric, while in Asia, you made some bold predictions for Bitcoin. Speaking at Hong Kong's Bitcoin Asia 2025 conference last week, you said you're certain Bitcoin will eventually hit a $1 million valuation. Obviously, you're very bullish on Bitcoin, but what makes you believe in the cryptocurrency so much? And are you bullish on any others?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I truly believe in my heart that it hits $1 million. It's going to be a number of years before obviously it does, but I truly believe it. And listen, it's very simple. Back in the older days, if you want to buy Bitcoin, you had to go onto DeFi. You had to, go through kind of, maybe a little bit of an antiquated exchange that was a little bit hard to use in the crypto space, which weren't kind of mainstream. I probably know every major banker in the country, and every single one of them leading the biggest firms out there are all getting into cryptocurrency, whether it be obviously the Fidelities. They've made it incredibly, simple. They have, 40% of the 401ks in this country, or whatever the actual number is, somewhere around there. You look at Charles Schwab and how they're diving into it. You look at JP Morgan, how they're diving into it. You look at what BlackRock's doing and how they're diving into it, right? So you have that. You have states that are literally putting out legislation so they can custody Bitcoin on their balance sheets. You have countries that believe in it and are using all their spare energy every single day, especially during winter months where they don't need it for HVAC and cooling to otherwise power Bitcoin mining. You've got the Fortune 500 companies. I mean, I don't think there's a day that goes by, and you see this all the time doing what you do, that another Fortune 500 and another massive company in the United States doesn't make the major announcement that they're custodying Bitcoin. It is becoming a balance sheet item. It is becoming a treasury item. People fundamentally believe in it as a store of value. Again, it's immediately liquid. It's global. There's so many positive attributes to it. And so I've never believed in it more. And now, last but not least, now that it's hitting the equity markets through American Bitcoin and through others, but really American Bitcoin leading the way, I mean, you're literally just opening up Bitcoin to hundreds of millions of users and really trillions and trillions of dollars, whether it be in those 401ks, those retirement accounts, personal savings accounts, or just as an investment strategy for various people. And so, we were always on the 1 yard line before. We're still very early in the adoption of Bitcoin. And I do believe in my heart that in time, Bitcoin will hit $1 million. Absolutely.
Now, you touched on this, but Eric, we have seen a lot of developments for crypto since your father started his second term. President Trump hosted a White House summit for industry leaders, appointed a crypto czar, and has pushed for friendlier regulation, signing the first major piece of crypto legislation into law in July, the Genius Act stablecoin bill. What has changed for stablecoins, including World Liberty's USD1, since then?
Well, listen, just in general, crypto, I mean, my father ran on a platform of embracing it. He knew if we didn't embrace it, China would, right? And they would win the race. He knew if we didn't embrace it, the Middle East would, and they are actively every single day, and they're sprinting at it fast. And listen, my father wants our country to win at absolutely everything we do. The beautiful thing about, stablecoins is you're bringing effectively American, a dollar to the entire world. You're bringing trillions of dollars of liquidity into American markets. And I actually think it's one of the things that does the most to save the U.S. dollar. Listen, if you're in Europe, I have a lot of European friends. They don't want the euro. If you're in China, you don't want the currency. If you're in Asia, what currency do you want? Everybody around the world. I don't care if you're in Africa, if you're in Central and South America, everybody wants the U.S. dollar. And now all of a sudden we're making that accessible, based on something that's pegged, a digital dollar that's pegged 1-to-1 against U.S. Treasuries. And you better imagine the amount of liquidity that's going to come into America is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for our nation. It's a beautiful thing for humanity. It's a beautiful thing for financial freedom. Go down to Zimbabwe where you have, anywhere between 1,000 and 10,000% inflation every day. You get your paycheck. You may as well just burn it, right? You may as well light it on fire right there. If people have the ability vis-a-vis their cell phone, their smartphone, to all of a sudden take their paycheck and transfer it into Bitcoin or into, USD1 or into stablecoin, it provides financial freedom for people all across the world, people that have bad governments, that have massive fraud, have massive corruption, that have massive instability, that have massive inflation, and so many other catastrophic problems. So I think it's a wonderful thing for America. I think you're going to see trillions of dollars of inflows. And that's why my father, long before he even won the race, he ran on being the crypto president because, he's got the foresight to look 3 feet in front of us and see where the world's going. Modern finance is dying. Cryptocurrency is winning right now, and you're going to continue to see those dynamics evolve at absolute lightning speed.
Eric Trump and Asher Ganud, thank you very much for joining us on the day that American Bitcoin made its NASDAQ debut.
Thank
you for having us.